Oh, to all the families on this earth. It is so good to be here together. It is so good to have you here, Laura. It's so... It is so good to have Ken and Katrina here. It's so good to have all of you here. Thank you so much for choosing to spend this weekend in the middle of your summer with us. Do you remember that passage at Pentecost after those tongues of fire had come down on people's heads and everybody was speaking in different languages and understanding one another's languages? And Peter gets up to try to make sense of it all, to try to explain what's going on. He says, "Don't worry, they're not drunk." And then he quotes a quote from one of the oldest prophets in the Old Testament, from one of the minor 12 prophets, the prophet of Joel. He says this: "But Peter, standing with the 11, raised his voice and addressed them. 'Men of Judea and all who live in Jerusalem, let this be known to you, and listen to what I say. Indeed, these are not drunk, as you suppose, for it is only 9 o'clock in the morning.'" We know what that means, right? No, this is what was spoken through the prophet Joel. "In the last days it will be, God declares, that I will pour out my Spirit upon all flesh. And your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. And your young men shall see visions. And your old men shall dream dreams. Even upon my slaves, both men and women, in those days I will pour out my Spirit, and they shall prophesy." Helen Keller was once asked if she could imagine anything worse than being blind. She said, "Yes, I can. Worse than being blind would be being able to see but having no vision." Peter was clear, wasn't he? A personal, transformational encounter with God. It gives us the ability to dream God-sized dreams, to have bold, God-led visions for what this world could be like, for what this world should be like, for what our lives could be like, with God at the center of them. It's always been about the dreams. I want to ask you a question. I'd love to get some responses. What do you think of? What images come to your mind, negative or positive, when you hear that phrase, "live in the dream"? Live in the dream, baby. Anybody? What images does that raise in your mind? Being on a boat? Live in the dream. Anybody else? What pictures come to your mind? Easy Street, Disneyland. Others? What? The beach, live in the dream. Being up in the mountains, yeah. Dogs? Dogs, live in the dream. I'm sorry? Playing music for a living. That's right, that's right. Being debt-free. Riding a motorcycle, nice, yes. Sometimes when I think about it, I think of these guys. Anyone know who they are? You remember this show? HBO, Laura just said, Doug just said, Entourage. Do you remember these guys? This show, Dream Large, Live Larger, Entourage. About this young movie star and all of his friends and his family from other parts of the country come together and they're trying to live the dream in Hollywood. Trying to live the lifestyle that they think they're supposed to be living. When you hear that phrase, "live in the dream," is it mostly a positive or a negative thing? I guess it kind of depends on what the dream is, doesn't it? I think sometimes we use it to talk about an excess of things, to talk about a lot of the shallow and superficial things that people get kind of distracted by, right? Living large, living the dream. Our faith was always based on living the dream, living the right kind of dreams. From the very beginning, when God called Abraham and Sarah out of that land of their fathers, the Ur of the Chaldeans, they were living a dream. They were living the dream of their time. In those days, just to be coming into your later years, to be comfortable and secure, to have a big family and to have a lot of animal and cattle and herds, that was the dream. Abraham and Sarah had been planning on just sort of cruising into retirement and to enjoy the fruit of their labors. It was the dream back then, for people back then, this nomadic culture, that if you could gather enough of a herd for yourself, then you could stay in one place. That you would never have to leave and go travel and follow your herds again. And yet in the middle of this, they hear this call. Abraham has this dream, this vision. God speaks to him and gives him this unbelievable promise that something new and radical is about to happen, that God is trying to do something that will be revolutionary for the world. It will be a new way of understanding faith and understanding our relationship with God. It will be a new way for us to understand other people and other nations and other cultures. God says to Abraham and Sarah, go. Go, and I will make of you a great nation. I will bless you, and through you I will bless all the peoples of this earth. That was the original dream. That was the original vision. That was the original calling and promise on which it was all based. Not just the nation of Israel, not just the Jewish faith, but all of the Christians around the world and all of the Muslims as well, all of the Abrahamic traditions, they find their foundation. We find our basis in this most fundamental promise, that we have been blessed to be a blessing. The book of Genesis carries so many of these foundational, seismic, I wonder why I chose that word, seismic, earth-shattering kinds of truths. You know, I think it is a real shame that so often we get caught up in discussing and arguing and debating whether the stories in Genesis are literally true. Because whether or not they're literally true is kind of beside the point. They may not be literally true, but they are truth. Isn't that right? That they are pure truth. That the story of Adam and Eve, whether they were actual people, it tells us so much about who we are and why we're here and what's important in life and where it is that we struggle and where we find our pitfalls. The story of Noah and the flood and the ark and the rainbow is an incredible way of God saying to us this promise that God will never again abandon creation. When God makes that covenant with Noah, long before Israel is called the chosen people, God makes it very clear that God's chosen people is all of creation. That God's chosen people are all the families of the earth. Never again will I abandon the creation. And when this old couple, Abraham and Sarah, leave their birthplace, the home of their fathers, to go and begin a new nation and to start a new dream and to begin a new religion that will be the basis of most of the world's most major religions throughout history, it was always based on this dream, this promise that you will be blessed in order to be a blessing. I don't know if this sounds familiar to you. As we finish celebrating the 243rd birthday of our nation, does it sound a little familiar? I hope so. Do you think it's any coincidence that we were based on this promise from thousands of years ago? That I will bless you, that I will make you a great nation so that you will be a blessing to all of the families on this earth? We are very fortunate to live in a pretty amazing place. But what we must never forget is that it is not our power or our wealth or our way of life. It is not our innovation or our creations or any of the things that we have done that makes us great. What makes us great is the dream. This dream that was based on this promise in the 12th chapter of Genesis. A dream, a promise that our nation will be built on a simple and sometimes very inconvenient truth that all men and women are created equal, that all of the families on this earth are God's chosen families, that we have been blessed to be a blessing. And what that means is that true loyalty to our nation, true patriotism is not about protecting geography or borders or a flag or a system of government. True patriotism is not about political parties or a way of life or protecting our interests. True patriotism is about living the dream. We're living up to the dream, the right dreams, about who we are and who we were created to be. This dream that has been a part of our DNA since the earliest times, that flows through the DNA of Christians and Jews and Muslims through our father Abraham. This is a dream that we are called to stand up for over and over again, even when it means we need to stand up and speak out and fight against our own government, our own country, when we feel that it isn't doing the things to live up to the demands of this dream that it's all about. I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. This is the dream. This is the promise. What are the dreams that you have for your life in this season, at this moment? For your own life, for this church, for our city, for our nation, our world? What are the God-given visions and dreams that God has placed on your heart for the way things could be, the way things should be? Because it's not just a matter of having a dream, it's about living the dream, living the right kind of dreams. This idea of being blessed to be a blessing, it is a beautiful concept for a family of religions. It's a beautiful concept for the most powerful nation on earth. It's a beautiful concept for our lives, but it's also a beautiful concept for our church. This church is very lucky to have some wonderful strategic history, people who made great choices about real estate and architecture, about theology and denominations and programs and ministries. But it's not our building that makes us great. It's not our theology. It's not our programs and ministries. It's not our pastors. It's not even our people that happen to be sitting in the pews at this moment. What makes BPC great is the dreams that we've been based on, the nuances, this particular take that we have on this age-old dream that we were promised from the beginning, that we were blessed to be a blessing. There are some beautiful nuances to the way that we've interpreted and tried to live into that dream for this generation in this city at this time. We are a church that has a dream to be more welcoming and open more inclusive than most other churches. A church where we really feel in our DNA that we at least we want to be open to everyone, that no matter where you are or aren't on your spiritual journey, that there is a place for you here. That it doesn't matter what your age is, or your class, or your culture, or ethnicity, or religion. That it doesn't matter who you are or who you love. That if you want to simply hear about this man, Jesus of Nazareth, and the difference that he can make in your life and in our world, there is a place for you here. You are welcome here. That we will be preaching a very simple, straightforward gospel message. And if that's what you want to hear, you are welcome along for the ride. We are a church that's always prided ourselves on being a big tent where liberals and conservatives and evangelicals and universalists and Republicans and Democrats can come together and listen to each other and hear each other and learn from each other, convinced that we are going to grow deeper in our faith when we're able to really listen and learn from one another. That what this world is starving for isn't a community of people who learn to love people just like themselves, but that there's a church out there that loves people who are very different from themselves. We are a church that has always wanted to be intellectually honest, to ask the real questions, to not back away from the real truths. We want to be a place where we can explore and tear things apart and put them back together. We want to be a place where we can say, you do not need to check your brain at the door to come here. A place that's honest and sincere, that has no trouble saying we're sorry for mistakes of the church in the past and our church when we make mistakes, but are able to move forward with an open spirit towards everyone. But at the same time, we don't want to be a heady place that's just about intellectual curiosity. We want to be an extremely, ferociously practical place where we talk about the issues and the things that matter most to people, where we get involved in the mission projects that touch at the heart of the things that people are really going through, the most significant struggles and difficulties and trials of our times. Because we want to be a place where you don't just have to, you don't have to just not, that's a whole lot of negatives, check your brain at the door, but you don't have to check your heart at the door either. And we've always wanted it to be always based on the fundamental idea that it all begins and ends with a very personal and transformational encounter with this rabbi that they call Jesus Christ. That it's Jesus who teaches us how to be more open and welcoming and inclusive. It's Jesus who teaches us how to be intellectually honest and to be open to people of different ideas and different faiths. That it is Jesus that we are more accepting and more welcoming when we are more completely committed to this man, Jesus of Nazareth. This weekend, this week, as we celebrate the 243rd birthday of the founding of this nation, we are beginning our own new chapter of this ancient dream that has been passed down from generation to generation. We want to welcome the Right Reverend Laura East. Thank you for choosing us. Thank you for making this a part of your dream. You've been a part of our dream before we even began dreaming it. Laura is here partially because at her DNA is many of the same dreams as we have in our DNA as a church. But another reason she's here is because she has some new nuances and perspectives to this beautiful ancient dream. She has some of her own ideas of what it looks like to be faithful to this rabbi in this day and this age and this moment in our world's history, in our nation's history, in our political and social and church history. So my challenge to us today is for us to be wide open. Wide open to new nuances, wide open to the new perspectives that Laura is going to bring to us as we try to figure out how to live the dream in this day and this age. As we figure out what BPC's take on this ancient dream that we're blessed to be a blessing is going to look like. Because it is not about buildings, and it is not about ministries. It's not even about wonderful music or incredible educational opportunities. It's not about all of the good that we do in this world. It is all about the dream and what we're doing to live into it. So once again, welcome, Laura. We are delighted that you're here. Let us recommit ourselves not just to the dream, but to really live in the dream. Baby. Amen.